Is the Muhammad that Muslims talk about real? What do the legends say about him? What do modern studies say about him? Is the image of Muhammad we have in our minds the same Muhammad who actually lived and existed 1400 years ago? Today we will journey together into the world of modern research where different stories have been told by various scholars. Stay with us until the end of the video. You might arrive at new and unbelievable conclusions. Historical studies about Muhammad's life have always been controversial and exciting, and the reason for this is simply that the documents and evidence we have about Muhammad's life only appear centuries later. The first document we have was written by Ibn Schacht a century after Muhammad's death, and even the original document and main book he wrote are no longer available to us. Only his sole student Ibn Hisham has a writing which, according to him, is derived from that same work of Ibn Schacht. In other words, the earliest writing we have dates back to 200 years after Muhammad's lifetime, and by then a cultural and social environment had developed that could produce such writings. And this very issue has led historians to have no reliable historical documents for examining and judging this religion. In this video, let's listen together to the opinions of several Eastern and Western scholars about Muhammad. The first viewpoint belongs to Morozov. Let's listen to it together.
I believe that before the Crusades, Islam was not very different from Judaism. Muhammad and the early caliphs are legendary figures. The Quran also contains composite and reconstructed elements, and the Arabian Peninsula could not have been the origin of an independent religion.
After this opinion was expressed for the first time, it actually paved the way for critics, allowing them to openly criticize Islam without any barriers. And next, we'll hear the views of Klimovich together.
All sources about Muhammad's life are late, and he may have existed merely as a necessary figure for the religion's existence.
And let's also listen to Goldziher's opinion together.
Many of the Mohammedan traditions found in classical sources are not historical. They are products of later centuries.
Next, we want to share Schacht's remarks with you.
The chains of transmission isnads attributed to the Prophet mostly developed after the Abbasid Revolution. The more precise and elaborate they appear, the more likely they are to be fabricated. Many early Islamic laws and practices arose from the social and political experience of people and Umayyad rulers, not directly from the Quran.
And the last theory from the old generation is presented by Lammens. Let's listen to it together.
In analyzing the life of the Prophet, Ali, and Fatima, and even the Quran, one can separate late and legendary traditions. Some narratives are the product of political and social needs of later generations rather than the Prophet's direct experience.
From here on, the opinions belong to researchers of the new generation and the 21st century. Let's hear the first opinion from John Wansbrough together.
I believe the Quran and Islamic tradition were not written in the 7th century. They are the product of centuries of religious debate and were probably committed to writing in the 8th and 9th centuries CE. Just as the texts of the Hebrew Bible developed over time, Islamic narratives were formed in the context of sectarian and theological disputes. The Quran should be seen not as a direct document of Muhammad, but as a reflection of a long religious discourse.
Patricia Crone's view is very interesting. Be sure to listen to it.
In Hagarism, we argued that early Islam was primarily a political religious movement with Judeo-Christian influences. Muhammad and his followers drew inspiration from Jewish and Christian traditions, and the Hijaz was not the ideal setting for its formation. This movement probably had roots closer to Syria and Iraq. I later moderated some of these views, but I still believe that the early sources about Muhammad are very late and should not be accepted without historical critique.
And also Michael Cook.
I collaborated with Crone on Hagarism. Later, in my independent research on fiqh, I showed that many Islamic rulings emerged from the social and political experience of early Muslims, not necessarily from the Prophet's direct words.
Let's hear Fred Donner, a professor at the University of Chicago, share his view on Islam.
Early Islam was a movement of believers, a movement that included Christians, Jews, and monotheists, and only later did it develop distinct Islamic boundaries.
Next, we want to listen to the opinion of a German Islamic studies scholar named Angelika Neuwirth.
The Quran belongs to the 7th century, but many surahs were composed in dialogue with the region's Jewish and Christian traditions.
Following that, Sean Anthony, a contemporary American researcher, will share his perspective with you.
We must avoid two extremes, neither a complete denial of Muhammad's existence, nor uncritical acceptance of traditional narratives. The historical Muhammad must be reconstructed through the limited and scattered sources available.
The opinion of Nikolai Sinai, a German Islamic studies scholar, is very interesting. You should listen to it over and over again.
The Quran is a mixture of pre-Islamic, Jewish, and Christian traditions that emerged during Muhammad's time and were later systematized within Islamic tradition.
In fact, the conclusion we draw from these criticisms is that the traditions and hadiths about Muhammad's life were actually created much later and are subsequent to that religion. And this has led critics to step into the arena and present their own views, which are opposed to and different from what Islam says. And the only historical, documented, and accurate source that can be extracted about Muhammad's life is within the Quran. And the Quran itself only mentions scattered things about Muhammad's life and does not provide a complete and clear explanation of what kind of person Muhammad was, where he was, how revelation came to him, and it doesn't even fully describe his life. We have no reliable source for this story, and this has led critics to offer various opinions on the subject. And this has made the historical life of Muhammad full of questions and ambiguities. And in fact, the life of Muhammad that has been described is actually what Muslims have recounted through a discipline called the science of Hadith. What is the science of Hadith? In fact, approximately 24,000 hadiths from the Prophet have been circulated. And using this science of Hadith, they have selected these hadiths, separating those with greater credibility and authenticity, reducing them to about 4,000 hadiths. And from among these 4,000 hadiths, they have been able to describe the course of Muhammad's life as well as his appearance, features, and other moral characteristics. And these are not actually historical records, but rather documents that were created at least a century after Muhammad. As I mentioned, the only reliable source we have from that time is the Quran, and we should derive and interpret our understanding of Islam solely from the Quran, line by line, because the hadiths and other documents do not have sufficient credibility. Join us in the next video as we examine, question, and explore the Quran line by line together. Before I end this video, I should tell you that in fact the people and opinions that have criticized are based on credible and official sources, and they are absolutely correct. However, the faces of these individuals shown to you were artificially generated by AI. This was done so you could better and more clearly understand the concept of the video and grasp what they are talking about. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to stay with us, subscribe to our channel, like this video as well so you don't miss out on our future research. Until the next video, goodbye.